Well, hello, this is Justin,
And I'm Blasterboy.
and we're casting Machi versus TPA, game number two of the playoff series for spring split of the LMS in 2016. For those of you not watching on Crossfade, we will be starting the VOD at 6 minutes and 40 seconds in, which is when they split back to the casters and start going into Champion Select. So what they're talking about here is mostly just what Machi could have done to win that last game. We saw that they had a very strong showing in the first couple minutes. Up until about the 20-minute mark, they were dictating the map movements of what TPA had to do, and it was mostly up to TPA to try to react. And despite that, Machi was able to pull off a 1-3-1 split push, grabbing two of the inner turrets before most of the action around the map fell off. And key player here, given to Fofo, I suppose they had to give it to somebody for such an overall low action game. But mid lane Azir definitely outscales almost everybody else on that map and coming in to really slow down that split push because once Azir became strong enough and once Azir could keep that lane shoved up and also make it really hard for Machi to pick any sort of fight, there wasn't really much Machi could have done. And the fact that they didn't really try to keep pushing that 1-3-1 advantage is really what lost them the game right there because they had no other plan of action.
Yeah, there was really no other way that Machi could play that composition that they ended up picking last game, especially with what TPA ended up putting together for their own comp, which was much more teamfight focused, which Machi said before the first game that was someplace that they maybe lacked confidence in the mid and late game parts of the game where they have to go into those team fights. TPA, they drafted a composition specifically for that, plus Machi maybe feeling like they falter there occasionally, or maybe even pretty often. That just completely scared them out of out of playing to any of their real win conditions.
And not to take any away from TPA's victory, but they also really weren't that confident in their own playstyle.
Right? Yeah.
Really pulling the trigger at almost 45 minutes in order to go for that Baron play that secured them the win. They definitely could have done that a little bit earlier once Machi's composition started falling off. And I feel like because they were so scared that they were already set behind, it took them a long time to really make that happen. And we're going into Champion Select now.
Yeah, and we're seeing the same exact bans so far that we saw last game. Uh, wow, yeah, exact same ones. So Nidalee and LeBlanc taken away by Machi. Trundle and Gragas taken away by TPA. Machi, they'll take the Azir off the table this time. They don't want to give that over to Fofo again. While he did go only 0-0-3, I'm sure that his damage was extremely high in that last game for how little it actually resulted in a lot of kills, and his farming and positioning was very good as well. It makes sense, all things considered, to see that taken off the table. And the final ban from TPA is Alistair. Again, same exact bans from them. No adjustments whatsoever. They didn't feel like Machi really showed anything that was worth taking off the table.
Yeah, and we see here that LMS, or at least TPA, don't have any problems with Echo. They simply outscaled him last game, and they're looking to do that. They're looking to do that yet again right now, but with the Rise pick instead of the Azir. And other than that, not taking any chances at all. Trundle, Gragas, and Alistair, which were foretold earlier by Machi, actually, when they were interviewed earlier. And Echo first picked by them again. We'll see the Braum again coming out from them. This is their engaged champion of choice, and it did result in a few picks off for them earlier in the game. But as we saw later on, it couldn't really do much to stop TPA's aggression.
Yeah, I think that was actually something that kind of hurt Machi last game with only having Braum as their engage. I would like to see something a little bit more from them. I mean, again, Echo can kind of be used as engage as well, but it's very, very difficult to pull that off. They're going to have the same 3 first picks as they did last game. Something I want to touch on a little bit, because this is the only different pick we see so far, is this Rise. Rise has been, well, rising in popularity again in these past few weeks, past few patches specifically. I'm honestly not really all that sure what's brought him back so much. He hasn't gotten any changes for ages. He hasn't been any stronger or weaker right now than he has been for the past few months, but yet here he is coming into the meta. It must be shifts elsewhere. or teams feel like the games are going longer. The teams are playing much more scared than they used to be in this season specifically. And TPA, they're feeling secure in the fact that Machi won't be able to close it out again, and they can draft something that scales really well. But a Malzahar hover,
Oh, this
Malzahar
could be a good
is,
counter against the Rise.
yeah, that would be really good against the Rise. You can constantly keep him pushing under tower. He's pretty much, he has to be giving up CS, or he has to be taking damage from your Malefic Vision after you push out the wave as well. You can lock him down in the later game and completely make him irrelevant for 2-3 seconds, and maybe just kill him outright, because killing tanks is something that Malzahar specializes in. Really, we're gonna see it. I'm really excited for this. This is something I haven't been able to watch firsthand quite yet, but KT, they picked it into Rocks a few weeks ago and handed them their, I believe, second loss of the split. So this does have a lot of potential.
Yeah, as far as Rise goes, I'll be honest, I really did not believe in the Rise train either until I watched CLG play him, and even then I wasn't convinced until after the 35-minute mark, because up
Yeah.
until then, Rise just doesn't do much at all. But you give him the chance to farm up, you give him the chance to build the tank items that he can afford to build, and then suddenly he'll become unkillable. Just the amount of damage that he was putting out way later into the game was able to change my mind about that pick, but picking it against Machi, who is supposedly purported for their early game, well, that's a little bit risky from TPA. But as we saw last game, it seems like they have the confidence that they can fend it off for just long enough.
We'll have a Lissandra as well, so this is a very flexible team from TPA. Machi still doesn't even really know who's exactly is going where, whether they're going top or mid, or what's really going on with this comp. Looks like it will be a Rise top. So this is a counter into the Echo pick, and
Yeah, no,
Lissandra into Mal. So that's actually really, really smart from TPA.
and now it's Machi with the teleport disadvantage. Lissandra is such a powerful pick right now because it forces the enemy laner to take cleanse. Now we actually saw something different from, I believe it was KT Fly, actually picking Gangplank into Lissandra in order to negate that. But Machi, of course, wasn't able to do that because they had already locked in the Malzahar to try to counter the Rise. And it looks like they're going to get the worst end of this trade as both matchups now countered by TPA. A nice draft from TPA. And one last thing to talk about Dreamer's choice. I mean, he loses two possible support champions that are really, really good on the engage side. And of course, Gragas is another one that has really powerful engage. So I find it hard to fault Machi for not being able to find a champion that they're really comfortable with engaging on, because if what Taizan said is, or no, sorry, that was actually said about TPA's J, but if we're looking for strong engage, TPA has done a very good job of taking away most of those choices.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been something that TPA has been putting quite a bit of pressure, focus on, rather, in the picks and bans, and it seems like they've really read Dreamer really well. We'll have to see if he's able to pull through on this Braum here. Braum Lucian is also a very scary composition, and I feel like Lucian, he's much safer, if nothing else, to play in the late game than Kalista. So if Machi does have to go to the late game for some reason, I feel like Lucian Braum is probably a better combo than they had last game.
Right, but the fact that BB keeps picking Sivir just makes me think that they're not going to be putting all that much effort into making sure that their bottom lane succeeds, because he doesn't need to. All they need is for this Rise to be able to get into the fight, and there's no better way to do that other than picking Sivir.
Yeah, and this is definitely just like a duo of ult bots. You want to hit the Temper Fate, you want to hit the Sivir ult. That's pretty much all you're going to need for the most part from these two picks, especially with the rest of the composition TPA has. If you can hit the Tempered Fate, then that can be a good way for you to find and engage. And if you can get the Sivir ult in at the right time, then that's also a very easy way to get an engage as well, of course. And from then on, it doesn't matter how far ahead or behind they are. Oh, TPA, they're going to bypass the wards here, and they're going to get a gank, or not a gank, but an invade, rather, onto Bobo and Taizan here. Will they be able to stop this?
They're going to put a little bit of harassment on this buddy system jungling here. Gromp coming along for the ride, but Machi backing away from that very early. Doesn't want to take any chances at all. And this is the lane swap that we were expecting last game. Now happening. Well, definitely chosen by TPA because that matchup, like we said earlier, is not fun for Sivir and Bard.
Yeah, and Dreamer, he's trying to pull off the same funny business on the opposite side, but he doesn't have the support of his ADC, which makes a lot of sense. He has to be there farming, but they are going to get the blue. I think Dreamer actually stole away one of the little sentinels with his Q.
He has two CS.
He has two CS.
Yeah, is
Seems
one of them
likely.
might be a ward? I'm not really sure. But he's definitely still on the hunt right here. TPA is getting very annoyed right here.
Oh, they got the smite away, though, so they get most of the XP there. This invade from Dreamer doesn't really mean that much in the end, but
yeah, they're
it meant way less for TPA.
They're recovering the XP bar right there, so I couldn't see how much Dreamer actually got out of that as far as experience goes. But Apex pushing very heavily with the Malefic Visions, and it'll be interesting to keep track of how this Malzahar lane plays out because I haven't seen this ever, at least in the short time that I've been casting.
Yeah, I haven't had the pleasure of casting one quite yet either, but it seems like it's a strong pick. I actually was spamming it a few weeks ago, and it's very, very strong. It's really difficult to deal with if you know how to play them correctly, and I'm certain that these players will know how to play pretty much every champion correctly if they're picking him in pro play. So I'm confident that Apex will be able to pull something special off here, but how special will it be is really the question.
Taizan! Taizan, king of the jungle, asserting his dominance over the red buff just barely.
So, TPA, they didn't get as much out of that early invade from Jay as Machi did from Dreamer, but they pushed Taizan out of his top side, and they were able to 3-buff him. So now he doesn't get a blue buff. He's going to be behind in gold, behind in XP, and behind in mana as he clears that wave, or as he clears that jungle, rather. Just over and over, he's going to be very low on mana, and won't even have the timer on that either. So very, very good from TPA to go and try to take that 3-buff advantage in this lane swap.
Wow, yeah, that was actually such an amazing early plan from TPA, and the fact that Taizan almost died right there could have been even worse for him. I do want to point out something very interesting is that in this lane swap, both of the bottom lanes actually backed off before the tower even finished off, giving that solo gold over to their top laners in order to offset the disadvantage that they get from double jungling earlier on. Usually we see the bottom laners finish the turret off before they actually do the swap around and have their top laners in the lane to freeze and grab that farm.
Right.
And we look at where Rise is going right now. They're going to swap yet again.
Yeah, they're not even going to put him top side. There's no reason to. They know that Bobo's going top anyway, so these are just mirrored decisions from both of these teams here. And I actually really like the decision to give the top laner the money because he gets XP, he gets about 300 gold. That's a very big advantage if one team does it and the other one does not. So seeing that match doesn't really mean all that much, but this is a fairly popular lane swap strategy.
Yeah, it's just something that I've never seen before, and it looks like it's something that these teams have practiced before. The way that lane swaps work in the LMS when they do happen. Refrain though. Oh, he's one more hit's gonna kill him off. Morning just can't seem to grab the dragon's attention, but he does get it in the end. And it's actually both turrets, or all 4 side outer turrets now on the map down.
Oh. Morning didn't get to that bot tower in time. They wanted to give him the gold again because Machi did that with Bobo. So Bobo has about a 200 gold lead in that lane just off of the turret gold. Whether he'll be able to turn that into anything or not is a completely different story, but the gold lead does exist for him at the moment.
Yeah, if any of the other games that we've seen so far that start in this fashion are anything to go off of, we won't see any of these differences in early gold make any sort of impact until at least 25 minutes in when these teams decide they're ready to fight. But Magical Journey around on the side, I might be eating my words right here. Bebe auto-attacking for a little bit of poke right here. Bobo does get the shield and the flash away to avoid any sort of stun, but Refrain is also here. His flash is already down. He has no escape right now. If no stun from Bard, though, Boomerang Blade not going to finish him off either. One more auto-attack from Saber is going to secure the first blood.
Well, on the opposite side, though, Morning was pushed off almost equally as much. He wasn't quite killed. He did make it back, but his CSing is going to be pretty slow. He will get a big wave, though, and he'll be significantly safer than Bobo ever was. So now this advantage might be shifting over to TPA's side.
Right, Taizan not joining his bottom lane for a gank right there because he was distracted by the Scuttle Crab, which had the Kindred's mark on it, but he's going to join them now for this push onto the bottom lane.
Nope, Bebe has enough wave clear to scare them off, so Machi, they had a good strategy, but they didn't execute it quickly enough. They didn't move the Rift Herald over there quickly enough, but they might get a dive onto Fofo.
Oh, Fofo flashing away from the Herald conversions. No stun that time. But that is a very big cooldown for Lissandra, especially as she moves back in to try to defend her turret against 4 people, but Aegis is very low. He might have taken a few tower shots. The wave clear now a 4-man standoff in this mid lane, but that turret is very low for Machi for TPA already. Apex doing a great job of shoving in that lane. He's not up in CS, but giving the pressure that his team needs in order to make moves around here.
And Jay is so smart with these journeys. That one, I think that was completely blind. Like, that was just kind of reading the situation properly and deciding, you know what, it's not worth walking that quite that far. But the rest of them, like, he's dodged wards with them. They got the Baron with it last game. Like, he's done a lot of work with these magical journeys. This is the Bard play that I waited so long to see.
The stun Fofo and the ultimate from Malzahar. Actually, Apex is going to die to the tower, though. Refrain getting the kill back. No assist gold on that side, but an okay trade for TPA.
They get the kill. They do get the kill. They burn a flash for it, and they burn a heal. And they still trade 1 for 1. So overall, that's an advantage.
This time, Bobo though gets a little bit of hit on the tower, but now they have the advantage because Bobo is very low. Refrain walking forward. Winter's Bite not going to hit anybody. Baby's still on the chase with on the hunt. Dreamer is going to survive this, but Echo goes down.
And this is all being done without Morning even grouping. That commitment from Machi was a little bit too much in the end. It looked really good, and it looked pretty smart. That corner is so weird sometimes.
Well, it looks like he has his good magical journeys and the not-so-good ones.
Yeah, you should see him laughing about it on his camera there. That's pretty funny.
Unlucky.
Really unfortunate. Yeah, really unlucky in the end. TPA, they've got a big wave bottom. It's not going to go to Bobo. It's going to go to D instead. Machi is really putting a lot of time into making sure that D keeps moving forward, I should say, in this matchup. Taizan does not have his Devour quite yet. He's not too far off of it, but his stacking will not be starting for another minute or two at least.
No, he was set so far behind because of those early moves in the jungle by TPA, that triple buff start. And just a little bit earlier, Tempered Fate going to catch Dreamer on the edge here, but Taizan is here to back him up. He actually backs off after he's like, nope, I don't want to do this. Does get stand behind me to save his teammate. Ooh, Rise is on the chase right now, but he doesn't hit any of his spells, and that's a successful escape from Dreamer.
And not really a good commitment there from TPA. They didn't have the Civarol. They didn't burn Lissandra Flash or Ultimate, but they burned Rise's Flash only for Dreamer's Flash, so that's really not great for them. It won't cost them anything immediately, but man, that might cost them later.
Yeah, Rise greedy for that first kill. He wants it early. A kill for Rise this early would be so incredibly useful for him. But actually, just a little bit earlier, he had almost a 30 CS lead. It was after that failed siege onto the mid lane where Bobo actually died. At that moment in time, Rise was very far ahead. And he's going to lose a little bit of that because he went for that play. BB actually down in CS as well because all this time while he was using his ultimate to try to get these picks in the mid lane, D was nowhere to be found. He was just grabbing all of that farm for himself. And this is Rift Herald attempt for TPA.
Looks like they will be getting it pretty soon, but 10 seconds on the Dragon. Will they give up Dragon for this? It seems likely. Machi is grouping around in that area properly. They
Yeah,
know this is more valuable for Taizan in terms of Devourer stacks. Morning is all alone.
they might have positioning on this turret as well. Get the dragon after they grab this turret for themselves, but Morning has so much wave clear with the desperate power. And D gonna hit the culling a little bit? No, actually just uses it for a little bit of poke. Man, they weren't able to clear that wave. They're gonna take the dragon as a consolation prize unless TPA has something to say about it.
It doesn't seem like they will. They're all grouped in the right area now as well, but they're just content with giving this up, even if it means Devourer stacks for Taizan. It will only mean that he has 6 in total.
Graves is here, though. No. Okay. Smite it away from Taizan.
They all have hops over the wall, so they will get out cleanly in the end. But yeah, that's 6 stacks now for Taizan in total. So that's a nice little boost for him, of course. Will TPA be able to get anything? They're roaming through the jungle. They're looking for a pick, maybe looking to clear vision, but they're not going to find anyone. Oh, Jay.
Jay with the aggressive magical journey.
Scaring Taizan successfully. Taizan called his bluff. He didn't want to take the risk.
Maybe just a few PTSD flashbacks to the very beginning of the game, right? The magical journey that ruined his day.
It could have been disastrous for Machi had they not gotten out like that at level 1. That was a really, really smart move from Jay.
And look at how even the CS numbers are actually right now. TPA only leading by 1,100 gold so far. I think it's because of they were each able to secure one Rift Herald, I believe.
Yep.
And so that puts the gold pretty even. I'm not really sure where the rest of that money went in the kills. Rise. Okay, so they should be sitting at even more of a lead then.
Well, their kill spread has not been amazing.
A little bit in trouble right here. Lissandra has the ult. Yeah, doesn't go in.
Okay. Yeah, she doesn't have enough vision down the lane. If she had gone in, Bobo was around this the corner, and Dreamer was as well, so that would have quickly turned in, very quickly become a 3v1 instead of just a 1v1 that Fofo was looking for, so decides not to commit to that. Again, just not taking unnecessary risks. On one hand, it's smart. In some situations, it's overcaution, and it ends up costing these teams potential advantages, or in the case of Machi last game, they kind of chicken out of their win condition and maybe lost the game entirely off of it.
Well, maybe Fofo just didn't want to be like Morning and blow his flash for nothing. Well, I was just speaking as an AD carry main. That was just gave me a little bit of a start right there. Lucian in front of the Lissandra like that, but
that's very scary.
I think Fofo wanted to try that one more time. Was waiting in the bush a little bit right there, expecting somebody to show up, but Machi instead going to make one more move around mid lane. And they're going to try this again. This time Bobo not here to feed away a kill.
I think they'll get this turret. It looks like it, Dreamer. Yep, he blocks all the wave clear, and then they get the turret.
To hit Bebe, but Apex. Tempered Fate gonna hit Apex, who doesn't have a dash to get away from that one. But D takes a chunk from Rise. Rise exhausted immediately, and another grasp to finish him off. Actually, the ultimate to save Apex as well. And that's a 1-for-0 right now for Machi. They might want more, but they blew 4 of their ultimates so far.
That was a really, really smart move from Machi there. They just completely turned the fight around and punished Morning for being on one side all alone. Just blew him up immediately, flash Nethergrass from Apex, and then the Lamb's Respite to keep him alive in the end as well. So, very, very smart from Machi. Will they be able to out-rotate TPA again? It doesn't look like it. BB's here. They're going to be able to get the wave clear in time.
Right, I'd find it difficult to out-rotate any team with a magical journey, but
Did happen last game though.
I think this is Morning just being very overzealous this game. I guess trying to make up for his poor early game performance last game on Poppy, and
he really picked the wrong champion to try to bounce back with a good early game performance. So I have to say, this is the exact opposite of what Rise wants to be doing. And what Rise really can be doing.
Well, his flash is back up, so maybe he just wants to land that Rune Prison to feel better about himself, and we'll see if that happens soon. Refrain gonna take away the red buff though. Very nice. Denying another buff yet again from Kindred.
Yeah, so that's guaranteed to be one more Devourer stat gone. Again, more stats missing, and potentially that could even be a denial from D as well. So, I mean, that ended up just being a
Dreamer.
pickup for Refrain.
Refrain is gonna get caught once again. Oh no, Jay is there to back
Okay.
him up.
Yep, Jay is there. Speeds him out with a little health relic. This game, it feels quiet, but it feels like it's on a knife's edge as well. Really, these teams, they're just kind of like passing each other, sometimes even like high-fiving and exchanging glares, but neither of them are really committing to anything. But it all looks like they could and looks like they might, but then they don't.
I think the clock is ticking here for Machi though. They want to take pride in their early game. They want to win these fights early, but they're already behind. Thankfully, they don't lose the Rift Herald. Taizan going to pick up 2 more stacks for himself and the buff, but let's see if they're able to do something with that buff and push in a lane. Rise, meanwhile, still bottom, still trying to scale up.
Yeah, the farm's still dead even more even than it was before, actually. Bobo has caught up. He was 20 CS down to Morning before. Now with Morning's death, Bobo's very good roaming these past few minutes. He's been able to close that gap entirely and even pull out a 1 CS lead.
Machi actually gaining about 2,000 gold over their opponents because they were down about 1.5k just a few minutes ago. So that one kill actually belies... Oh, actually, it was the turret as well. That middle turret, which was so low, and finally taken down by Machi. That's going to give them a temporary advantage here. But Dragon may change that here. TPA 4 members already in the area, and the teleport is available for Morning. So this may be another skirmish because Machi definitely wants this Dragon after losing one in TPA already. But no, actually TPA going to back out of this one. I don't see Machi moving forward for the position on this one either. I guess the stacks from Dragon just aren't enough to convince them right now.
Well, they are starting to collapse on it now. They were just trying to push out mid first.
Okay.
Maybe they'll look for a pick. They have control on the vision here.
The stun on the Dreamer, though, from the Cosmic Mining, but he does pop Unbreakable.
They don't even realize who they're hitting there.
Yeah.
Bobo, he has to back to stop Morning's push top. So this is forced responses from both teams here. Machi, they moved around and grouped around the Dragon to force TPA to move down. And now TPA is pushing in top, and they're forcing Bobo to go up there as well. Taizan's just going to solo this. This is really, really smart from Machi. This is the best result they could hope for, actually.
Yeah, he has no issues at all doing this Dragon by himself.
Incredibly smart. Just completely hidden as well because he hopped over the back of the wall. Really, really nicely played from Machi in the end. Good strategy, actually. It seemed like they gave TPA exactly what they wanted for a moment, but then they just take their own strategy and they run with it.
Yeah, Bobo actually able to stop a lot of the damage on the turret as well because Rise just simply doesn't really hit towers that hard and didn't have the time to really take down that turret. So actually TPA outplayed by the map movements from Machi. And they're going to have to do that quite a bit more if they want to gain that advantage that they sorely need in order to survive the mid and late game against Rise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not entirely out of the question because of this Malzahar, though. Being able to lock the Rise down for an extended period of time and maybe even just kill him outright in that duration is extremely valuable and something that I have not seen into a Rise yet. So it's hard to say how well that will work out if TPA knows how to respond to that. They don't have a lot of ways to stop the Malzahar.
I think a well-placed Glacial Prison will spell the end of that ultimate, though.
That's the best thing they can hope for. That's the only thing they have, and that means that they can't throw that onto... That means they can't throw that onto D. That means Fofo cannot afford to self-ult himself.
Speaking of ultimates on the Refrain, though, the stun is not going to come from Cosmic Binding. Forced to flash away from Refrain. He does have the Mosh shield, but he's now down. Taizan with the Nether Grafts, and that's the kill for Malzahar.
And with all the vision control here, I wouldn't be surprised if Machi went for Baron. I don't know if they will. Looks like they'll just go mid instead, or they'll at least push it out first.
So he just got one shot, right, from the Malzahar? I was seeing that correctly.
Yep, that's your goal. That is your goal as Malzahar player. You just lock someone down. There's no way they can stop you. Somebody else has to stop you if you lock that one person down.
Morning
And
getting a
that's a
little bit of
turret for
CC.
Machi.
That's a turret for Machi. The
Oh,
engage on
engage.
the Morning who gets stunned. Timeline are not going to finish him
goodbye.
off, but the
Oh,
Bard
no,
ultimate
not
onto two
quite.
people now. D and Bobo are not in position right now, but they don't
Good
get the
flash.
stun because of the flash away from
Oh,
from D,
no.
though. That's a lot of low people,
Fofo
though.
self-ulted.
Yeah, that's this Kindred ultimate to save a lot of people from D, but so many people. D actually kills off BB. So many people from Machi are low right now, but TPA doesn't have what it takes to finish them off. Jay
Oh,
is
they
now in
turned
trouble.
it.
Oh my god, 3 more kills for Machi. And Morning's the only person alive right now.
What is he doing? I mean, it's like, hey guys, I'm here. I hear a time, right?
Machi kind of taunting Morning a little bit right there. They're all so low, but Morning doesn't have the guts to come in there and blow all of them up. Decides to farm out the wave instead, and wow, that was a 4-for-0 for Machi right there.
Yeah, I mean, that was even. There's such a weird engage, but you could even say that was a 6-for-0 because they got the 2 picks in the jungle, and then they went push mid. They got 2 kills that they didn't get before, and then they repeated the 2 kills that they got in the jungle the first time. So they got 6 kills in that whole exchange without losing a single one. So here's the attempted re-engage from TPA. So D had a perfect flash, just mashing the button as soon as the Tempered Fate drops. It's perfect. Ties on. Fofo. If Fofo had ulted Tyzon there, that would have been perfect because he couldn't ult then, and everyone else probably would have died from that damage if not for that ultimate Lamb's Respite. And everyone else just completely melts to the damage of this Lucian and Malzahar and the Kindred as well. This is a 2-man Baron already. There's quite a lot of damage on Apex and Tyzon here. It's melting pretty quickly. No vision from TPA.
Yeah, that fight was on
Bobo
Fofo.
tanking as well now.
Ooh, Bobo here, though. That's 4 people. The TPA's got to be suspecting something since they're all off the
But
map.
it's dead. Too late. Tempered Fate. Just a few seconds too late from TPA. No vision. I can't believe they let that happen. It was so early, so risky for Machi to try to take that. But there was no vision from TPA. Massive mistake. Now they're the ones that are really crumbling. They have a really good late scaling comp, and it's still a risk for Machi to, if they're not able to end, it's really risky for them to continue going on in this game, but at the rate that they're moving, at what they were just able to pull off with that Baron, I don't think the game will go as long as it needs to for TPA.
Yeah, I think that magical mid-game that Rise really wants is not going to happen for TPA. And perhaps still reeling from that failed 0-6 exchange, so they just weren't on point to be able to scout out that Baron. Just trying to get their bearings back in the mid lane and trying to defend that bottom turret, and they completely lost focus of what Machi was trying to do.
They have
But
3
now,
sweepers.
Yeah, now hopefully on the same page here. Morning has the back, probably sitting on quite a bit of gold. But Echo putting on plenty of pressure up in top lane, which means that Fofo isn't here to defend with the Baron buff minions.
Yeah, there are no melees here, so the wave won't last as long as it as it would have otherwise, but they still get the turret, and that is enough. Pushing in, Fofo stuck top lane. There's no good flanking wards for him really either. He has to come in from in front of Machi essentially, even if he comes in on the left side and then try to run his way behind them. He can't just come in right behind. No ward set up for that.
Yeah, and he beelined it for top lane, but then takes a 90-degree turn to try to defend the turret, and that gives Echo the freedom he needs to take down that inner turret. And this is the split push strategy that we wanted Machi to use last game. 1-4 this time around. It's still just as effective. They're down that 1 teleport, but playing this one much better than they ever could have the last game.
Absolutely. And this seems to be the opposite of the meta everywhere else, at least with how these 2 games seem to be going so far. And that the team without double teleport seems to be the one winning. That's, I mean, true for 2 games so far, assuming Machi does take this.
No,
There's a good
Fate
Tempered
onto
Fate.
Apex, but nobody else is in position to follow up. Now some very aggressive tanking from Bobo and Dreamer in order to take down that turret. Almost no minions needed to actually finish that one off.
Yeah, really smart there from Machi in the end, even though Apex got caught. The Glacial Fissure and the positioning of the rest of Machi was enough to deter anyone from TPA from diving in and risking their lives for that.
And that's positioning for Machi on the Dragon as well. Number 3 for them, 2 over TPA. And I really think, what's going to happen sooner? The Rise finally comes around and starts doing this job, or 5 Dragons for Machi? I believe Machi is going to have the advantage there.
I mean, honestly, that seems like it's pretty sure in one direction or another. But man, I mean, 12 more minutes is really, really pushing it for Machi. I feel. I think that they shouldn't go for this 5 dragon win condition.
No, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
believe it's their end goal. I'm just saying that it's an
right. Yeah,
inevitability because TPA can't move out of their base anymore if they're also going to
right.
lose that
Yeah,
inhibitor.
yeah. If the game does go that long, Machi will definitely get it. I don't think they should go for that. I don't think that should be their focus.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really, really taking a huge risk against us, right?
Oh,
Oh,
Bobo
Bobo.
hopping forward a
Uh
little
oh.
bit over aggressive right there. 3 people from TPA on the
He has
chase,
ult to
but Bobo
heal.
flashes away. No ulti yet though. He
Yeah,
doesn't need it because he is
doesn't even
already
need
so
it.
tanky.
Man, that's not good. That's 3 ults nearly from TPA. 2 ults. Tempered Fate's still on cooldown. Jay taking a lot of damage, getting silenced as well. Has to back off. The inhib is crumbling.
Yeah, that's definitely the inhibitor for Machi because they are much less hesitant than their opponents when they have that advantage.
TPA can't engage either. There's no reason. There's no way that Machi is really at much of a risk there without any of the engage tools of TPA being available.
And look at Apex just standing in front and taking all the poke because he's dropping his own on the enemy team. Call of the Void doing so much work there. 3 members from TB already have health, though. The Culling going to bring Rise down even
Oh,
a little bit
morning.
lower. The inhibitor turret down for
Wow.
Machi, though. No kills yet.
Yeah, and they're doing this all without Baron as well. Bobo finally does pop his ult back, but that denies the engage from TPA again. That's the one pick that they had that entire situation, and it's just completely taken away. They get nothing at any point there from the overcommit onto Bobo earlier. And I mean, if nothing else, Bobo is doing a really good job of pulling TPA's attention and much larger cooldowns than he should be getting, I feel.
Yeah, and on the flip side, this Rise just offering nothing at all because he can't be the one person. Even when he gets fed, he just doesn't have the engage tools in order to get in range and do damage or get into the right
Yeah.
targets. And you can see him just kind of studying around on the backside, just not able to do anything while Bobo runs circles around the enemy team.
Yeah, the TPA built an enabling composition for Rise. So that means that Rise, he cannot stand on his own in this game. He needs other people to give him a little bit of a boost in order for him to have a huge effect. Now, TPA, they know that Machi is going to be going up top. So they're going to camp this bush with 3 members, but they're going to get spotted. They might be caught.
They are outnumbered in their Fnatic brush attempt. PB gonna spell shield the Glacial Fissure. Jay is already down to half health.
That good
Tempered
Tempered
Fate to
Fate.
stop the engage, though. TBA might be able to limp away from this one. But the
But
shot that they had right there also completely nullified. Culling gonna
yeah,
tank and refrain on the backside here, and that's the mounting dread under refrain, forced to back away with the ultimate, but so
Whoa.
many people from Machi low. Actually, D dying first is Fofo, and this might be a good fight. Double kill right now for Fofo, and that's 4 people from TPA still alive.
Bo might be able to
Bobo's doing a
salvage this.
huge amount of work on the backside, but Fofo is still alive. Gonna take down Taizan one more time. Oh, double kill for Bobo actually as well. This Echo is just going off, and Taizan trying to make it away from his pursuer right here, and Fofo's gonna eventually kill him. And Morning might have what it takes to take down Bobo right now. His ultimate is not up anymore, but
Oh
that's
no.
both Nexus turrets down because of the Winions in the base. Bobo just has to stall long enough right here. He's not dying
Oh,
to
but
Morning
he's dead.
anytime soon. There we go. Fofo might not be able to hold this one off on his own. He's going to die to the minions if he tries. That's an ace, though, for TPA. So they might live to fight another day. Fofo?
Oh, this
He's no AD
is so
carry.
hard.
He doesn't have this. He doesn't have anything. He can barely get the attention of the siege minions to draw them away from the Nexus. Down to a third health
He's
now.
so low.
These are the absolute two worst people. Right? You need Refrain or BB or somebody to take down these siege minions or super minions, and now they spawn. But wow, yeah, one good backdoor from Bobo, and I'm smelling it. It's probably gonna happen. It's going to end this game for Machi and TBA.
Man, that would be such a good ending to this game. So we'll likely see a replay in a minute, so I won't touch too much on that fight, but basically, TLDR, Apex put himself in a terrible spot. D overextended just like by 2 steps, and from there, the fight was just completely cost for Machi. Now, while that is big for TPA to win a fight like that, They did that off the back of 2 downed inhibitors. That's great for them to try to push out of their base like that, but now they have no base left to go back to, really. Their Nexus even nearly died after that fight was all said and done.
Yeah,
And they can't do that again. They're still down 7,000 gold. They cannot do that again.
yeah, and this is Machi. With their hands on the reins of this game, they know that they can either do this Baron and force TP out of the base, or they can just strong arm it in. The Baron is the safer option, and there's no contest from TPA right now because they're just too far behind.
They do have vision, though. They might be able to pressure this Machi. They're going to back off. They don't want to take the risk. Going to let it reset.
Yeah, here we go.
They're waiting for supers. Oh no, it didn't reset. It didn't
TPA
reset
has to go
enough.
back to defend.
TPA. Yeah. Okay. Very, very smart from Machi. So
They're still so far away from their base, though.
have to journey back.
Yeah, Bobo actually almost beats them back to their base, and that's more minions wailing away on the Nexus as we speak.
And this is not good for TPA. I think this game pretty much over at this point. Now super minions.
Fake gonna land on Tyzon and Apex, though. That's a good ultimate. Though Fofo going in on the engage. Lamb's Respect is almost immediately to save his team, but Fofo is almost going to die here. Zanya's, that's another grasp onto Refrain, actually. Refrain goes down, and a kill from D onto Fofo as well. Bobo going ham in the backline. Ultimates to get out before almost dying to BB, and BB is going to be the one dying here instead, actually. No kills with Jay, the last defending member, because the rest of his team is preoccupied, and that's the game for Machi.
Oh, that was such a weird situation there. So, yeah, that was really well played from Machi at the end. They played around the Baron just so the super minions would get into TPA's base, and then TPA couldn't afford to take that fight, because if they did take that fight, even if they got the Baron, it would take so long that they would have just lost their Nexus anyway. So then they were forced to back off, forced to try to defend, and even then, they were giving up the Baron and weren't killing anyone, and that was just the end of the game.
Yeah, there was no fight for TPA to take at that point, and even after the Baron, while they were in their base, if there was even a slight advantage for Machi in that team fight, they wouldn't even have to finish the fight, as we saw. All they had to do was get a positioning advantage on the Nexus to finish it off. And a very convincing win for Machi, actually displaying that early game power and then driving it home, never making it to that late game that they're so afraid of exposing themselves to, especially when going up against TPA's Rise. And we'll see what happens next in Game 3 coming up.